Hello and shalom, brothers and sisters, Messiah Yeshua. Welcome back. I'm Jeremy, and this is the Two Ways teaching. This will be part 2 of Millennial Day 3 of creation. Let's get started. So, quick overview from Millennial Day 3 of creation teaching. We looked at the literal Day 3 and how all the waters under heaven were gathered together under one place. And then in Millennial Day 3, we saw all the people were gathered together into one place and one language at Babel. And then on literal Day 3, he says, God said, let the dry land appear. And on Millennial Day 3, God says to Abraham, come and I will show you the land that I will give you. And it appeared to him. Also in literal Day 3, the waters under the heavens, he called then seas. And in Millennial Day 3, we see that he makes the Gentiles. He makes all the different nations and changes their languages. It goes on to say that the earth will then bring forth grass, herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree bearing fruit with the seed in itself after his kind. And so we see the two seeds were also a picture of the two covenants, and also kind of a picture of the two ways that we're going to talk about today. But the seed from the grass, we looked at the scriptures that it says that it's like the flesh, it comes and it withers away and it's cut off. But the seed that's in the fruit tree is the seed of promise, which is Yeshua, and it will last forever. And we looked a little bit closely at the two covenants, with Hagar and Sarah being the two covenants, speaking of heavenly and earthly Jerusalem, and the child that's born of the flesh and the child that's born of the promise. Like I said, we will look at the new covenant and the two covenants much closer in depth after Millennial Day 4. I will do that teaching. Alright, so with that said, we also looked at the third Hebrew letter for Day 3, which is the Gamal, and that means to gather. Alright, here we go. So, the two ways. In John 7:16, this is Yeshua. He's at the Feast of Tabernacles. And he says to them, Yeshua answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. If any man will do his will, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or I speak of myself. Right? So Yeshua came to teach the Father's doctrine. We had already had the Torah, but they were blinded by the glory of God, which is Yeshua, and seeing him in the Torah and the love behind the Torah. So with that said, let's look at this. And Yeshua said unto them, take heed to be and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. How is it that you do not understand that I speak it not to you concerning bread, that you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees? Right? So he's saying, he's not talking about bread here, but what is he talking about? This leaven. Because there's many teachings out there that talk about the leaven being sin, and that's not found in the Bible. What we're going to look at is what Yeshua says. What does the Bible say? And let's apply that and see if it makes more sense. It says, and he said to them in his doctrine, so this is Yeshua saying in his doctrine, beware of the scribes which love to go in long clothing and love salutations in the marketplace. And then later it goes on to say, then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but the doctrine of the Sadducees and Pharisees. So Yeshua is saying that the doctrine is the leaven. It's not sin, but their doctrine did lead to sin, but that's not what it's referring to here. It's referring to their doctrine. Right? And in Galatians it says, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump, which is true. A little doctrine has built these gigantic mega churches around the world, and some of it is false doctrine. It says, your glorying is not good. Know you not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Right? So we know that the leaven leavens a whole lump. And that's how bread used to rise back in the day when they didn't have instant yeast. They had to let it sit to rise. And it took time. So with that, now that we know that leaven refers to doctrine, let's look at 1 Corinthians 5:7 and read this from that perspective. So everywhere it says leaven, I'm going to put the word doctrine in there. So purge out therefore the old doctrine, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened, for even Christ our Passover sacrificed for us. So we know that after Passover, the very next feast that comes is the 7 days of unleavened bread. So because Yeshua was sacrificed for us, we are now unleavened, and we need to purge out the old leaven or the old doctrine, because Yeshua came to show us the truth. And so with that it says, therefore let us keep the feast, not with old doctrine, neither with the doctrine of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So we're going to be filled with the doctrine of sincerity and truth, with the leaven of Yeshua, with his doctrine. And it goes on, another parable spake he unto them, the kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven. Is the kingdom of heaven like sin? No, there is no sin in the kingdom of heaven. This is speaking of doctrine. The kingdom of heaven is like a little doctrine, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened. Yeshua sent the Ruach HaKodesh in our hearts to teach us his doctrine, so that we can grow into a leavened lump. And that's why the next feast that comes is Shavuot, and we offer up 2 loaves of leavened bread, because we have been leavened, right? The Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, that word is same thing, same word for air or wind, and that's what leavens bread, that's what lifts it up, puffs it up, is the air. So when we say leaven equals sin, here we're saying that the kingdom of heaven is like sin. It's not like sin. It's speaking of doctrine, and we were supposed to purge out the old doctrine, the doctrine of the Sadducees and Pharisees, and be a new lump and learn this new doctrine that Yeshua was to bring. Alright, now with that said, I want to talk real quick about the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, these people that were out in Qumran, if you've ever read them, all of their writings are about the New Covenant and about the Messiah, the Yeshua, coming. Though at the time they didn't know it was Yeshua, but all of the prophecies, they knew that he was coming around that time. That's why John the Baptist asked him, are you the one to come, or should we expect another? Because all of their writings out there were all about the New Covenant and what it was, returning to the Torah in love, and the 2 ways of man, and these 2 different doctrines. And so I want to look at that real quick. So bear with me as we read some of these Dead Sea Scrolls. And I know some people shy away from these, but more and more evidence is coming out that these were actually scrolls either written by or collected by a community of people that were believers in John the Baptist, and they were doing baptisms out in that area, and that's who they were. They were John the Baptist, though John the Baptist wasn't one to start the community, but he was probably the ruler of the community at that time, their high priest, so to say, waiting for the Messiah to come, and they were preparing the way in the wilderness. And more evidence is coming out for that. But if you don't believe that, just go ahead, let's listen to what this has to say. So bear with me as we read through and talk about it. So this is from the Community Rule 1QS, which is the first cave it was found in. It says, the Master shall teach the saints to live according to the book of the Community Rule, that they may seek God with a whole heart and soul, and do what is good and right before him, and as he commanded by the hand of Moses and all his servants the prophets, that they may love all that he has chosen and hate all that he has rejected. So right there, this is already talking New Covenant or New Testament things about love, right? That they may abstain from all evil and hold fast to all good. Is that not what the New Testament tells us? To turn from darkness to light, right? From hate to love. That they may practice truth, righteousness, and justice upon the earth, and no longer stubbornly follow a sinful heart and lustful eyes, committing all manner of evil. Now, isn't that what we just talked about? Yeshua, the old doctrine, the doctrine of the Sadducees and Pharisees. They loved to go about in long robes, and they liked the high places and everything because of the lusts of their heart, rather than the love of the heart. And so Yeshua is coming to get rid of the old doctrine and teach us the new doctrine, so that we may be a leavened lump, ready to be prepared on Shavuot. He shall admit into the covenant of grace all those who have freely devoted themselves to the observance of God's precepts, that they may be joined to the counsel of God, and that they may live perfectly before him in accordance with all that has been revealed concerning their appointed times, and that they may love all the sons of light, each according to his lot in God's design, and hate all the sons of darkness, each according to his guilt in God's vengeance. So here in the New Testament, are we not told that all are freely admitted? Yeshua came for everyone, man, woman, child, free, slave, all. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. The world, not any one particular group with certain blood in them or skin color or anything else. Yeshua came for all. And what did he teach us? Right? The sons of light here found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's nowhere found in the Old Testament, but it's used several times in the New Testament when Paul talks about being children of the day and sons of the light. We are not children of the night, right? But we are children of the day. It's only used here in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And did not Yeshua and John the Baptist rebuke the Sadducees and Pharisees and said that they were a pit of vipers and that their father was the devil? It's the two different doctrines, the two different ways. It goes on to say, all those who freely devote themselves to his truth shall bring all their knowledge, power, and possessions into the community of God. Isn't this not what the first century believers were doing? They were bringing all their knowledge, powers, and their possessions. They were selling all that they had and bringing it all together into one community, that they may purify their knowledge in the truth of God's precepts, and order their powers according to the ways of perfection, and all their possessions according to his righteous counsel. They shall not depart from any command of God concerning their times, that they shall neither early nor late for any of they shall neither be early or late for any of their appointed times. So here it's also saying that they're going to depart from, they're not going to depart from any command of God. In other parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, it talks about the new covenant being that which they return to the Torah and all the commands having to do with love and keeping them. That was the new covenant. They shall be neither early nor late for any of their appointed times. They shall stray neither to the right nor to the left of any of their true precepts. It says, all those who embrace the community rule shall enter into the covenant before God to obey all his commandments, so that they may not abandon him during the dominion of Belial because of fear or terror or affliction. Belial here is referring to Hasatan, the Satan, the adversary is what that means. And right, Yeshua tells us, we're told that Hasatan is the god of this world, this age that we're in, until he is cast down. And I know many people believe and have taught that Hasatan has already been cast down, but I'll do a teaching later on that. He is not cast down until the end of the sixth day or the sixth millennium, and that's when Yeshua returns as well. It goes on to say, on entering the covenant, the priests and the Levites shall bless the God of salvation in all his faithfulness, and all those entering the covenant shall say after them, Amen, Amen. It goes on, then the priests shall recite. So these people here consider themselves to be the Zadokite priests and the legitimate priests and high priesthood under the old covenant, but they were preparing the way for the new covenant and the coming of the Messiah. It says, the priests shall recite the favors of God manifested in his mighty deeds, and shall declare all his merciful grace to Israel. And the Levites shall recite the iniquities of the children of Israel and all their guilty rebellions and sins during the dominion of Belial. So here it's saying that we are to confess. And is that not what we are told under the new covenant? To repent, confess our sins, be baptized for the forgiveness of sins, and wash ourselves, right? Yeshua is the one that washes us, but that's just a symbol of being born again in this flesh. It goes on. It says, and after them, all those entering the covenant shall confess and say, we have strayed, we have disobeyed, we and our fathers before us have sinned and acted wickedly in walking counter to the precepts of truth and righteousness. Again, the New Testament tells us not only to ask forgiveness for ourselves, but also our forefathers. But here in the community rule of the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's very New Covenant, New Testament writing. It's almost like you're reading from the New Testament. It goes on, and God has judged us and our fathers also, but he has bestowed his bountiful mercy on us from everlasting to everlasting. And the priest shall bless all the men of the lot of God who walk perfectly in all his ways, saying, may he bless you with all good and preserve you from all evil. May he lighten your heart with life-giving wisdom and grant you eternal knowledge. Wisdom and knowledge only come from the Ruach HaKodesh. May he raise his merciful face toward you for an everlasting bliss. And again, in the New Testament, it's all about eternal blessings and everlasting blessings. It goes on, the master shall instruct all the sons of light, and shall teach them the nature of all the children of men according to the kind of spirit which they possess. So here's where we're going to get into the two ways and see the two doctrines and the two natures, and what happened at the garden when we went from only knowing good to knowing good and evil. It says the signs identifying their works during their lifetime. So it's the kind of spirit which we possess during our lifetime. It goes on, their visitation, their chastisement, and the time of their reward. So this is what the master is going to teach us. And you remember in the New Testament when they're looking for a place to go eat the Passover, he says, go tell this person, and they were actually in the Essene quarter where this was done. He says to them, tell him that the master wants these things, right? And this is referring to Yeshua here. And it says again, I'm going to say it again, he's going to teach us the nature of all the children of men according to the kind of spirit which they possess, the signs identifying their works during their lifetime, their visitation, their chastisement, and the time of their reward. Is this not exactly what Yeshua came to teach us? He taught us about our heart, to choose love and resist the evil. He taught us about his return, the visitation. He taught us about the judgment that's coming. And he also taught us about our reward, putting on our new garment, our eternal garment. It says, for God of knowledge comes all that is and shall be. It goes on, before ever they existed, he established their whole design. And when, as ordained for them, they come into being, it is in accord with his glorious design, right? It says we were created in the image of God, that they may accomplish their tasks without change. The laws of all things are in his hand, and he provides them with all their needs. He has created man to govern the world, right? But we lost that in the garden. And has appointed for him two spirits in which to walk until the time of his visitation, the spirits of truth and the spirit of injustice. Like we saw in the garden, we went from only knowing good, the spirit of good or the spirit of truth, to knowing good and evil. Now we have the spirit of truth and the spirit of injustice. Both are from God. But he never intended for us to know the spirit of injustice. It goes on, those born of truth spring from a fountain of light, but those born of injustice spring from a source of darkness. Who is ruler of the light and the children of light? Right now it's Yeshua. Who's the ruler of the darkness? It's Hasatan. Until he is cut down, then Yeshua will rule and reign over all nations. It goes on to say, all the children of righteousness are ruled by the Prince of Light, that's Yeshua, and walk in the ways of light. But all the children of injustice are ruled by the angel of darkness, that's Hasatan, the Satan, the adversary, and walk in the ways of darkness. The angel of darkness leads all the children of righteousness astray until his end, right? We know he stands as our accuser before the Father, but Yeshua stands as our intercessor. It goes on to say all their sin, iniquities, wickedness, and all their unlawful deeds are caused by his dominion in accordance with the mysteries of God. See, if we never would have eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, there never would have been any sin in the world, because like Paul says, that the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, of such there is no Torah, because you will never sin if you walk in those things. But when you walk in the darkness, you walk in lust and hate and anger and bitterness, and those things cause sin. And it says that these are caused by the dominion of him, and until he is cast down, that's why we still see all this war and everything around the world, because he hasn't been cast down yet. And it's in accordance with the mysteries of God. It says, every one of their chastisements and every one of the seasons of their distress shall be brought about by the rule of his persecution. For all his allotted spirits seek to overthrow the sons of light. But the God of Israel and his angel of truth will support all the sons of light. Right? The Bible teaches us that the Ruach HaKodesh will not abide deceit. Right? And he will not abide unrighteousness. So if we continue to practice unrighteousness and walk in it, the Ruach HaKodesh will leave. And when that happens, now all these spirits of darkness can come and overwhelm you. But without that helper, you have no chance. It goes on, for it is he who created the spirits of light and darkness, and founded every action upon them, and established every deed upon their ways. And he loves the one everlasting, and delights in its works, right? The good spirit, forever. But the counsel of the other he loathes, and forever hates its ways. So God created it, this spirit, but he hates its ways in us, right? Because when we get angry, it doesn't work out well for us. The Bible tells us that the anger of man will never produce the righteousness of God. But when God has anger, because he is spirit, he created the spirit of anger, he is able to overcome it. But we can't. It was never designed for us. He goes on, these are their ways in the world for the enlightenment of their heart of man, and so that all the paths of true righteousness may be made straight before him, and so that the fear of the laws of God may be instilled in his heart, a spirit of humility, patience, abundant charity, unending goodness, understanding, intelligence, mighty wisdom. These are all gifts of the Ruach HaKodesh, which trusts in all the deeds of God and leans on his great loving kindness. A spirit of discernment in every purpose of zeal for just laws, of holy intent with steadfastness of heart, of great charity towards all the sons of truth, and admirable purity, which detests all unclean idols, of humble conduct sprung from an understanding of all things, and of faithful concealment of the mysteries of truth. You see, Daniel says that in the last days that knowledge will increase. And right now we're in the 6th millennium, the 6,000th year, and this is the time when you are to grab a double portion of food. And I believe that the Ruach HaKodesh is pouring out a double portion of knowledge of the Word, and that's why we found these Dead Sea Scrolls. It's because when you read them, they are so closely related to the New Testament, but they give you so much more fullness and understanding of what's going on in our mind, and why we have this battle between good and evil, and why we struggle until the time of Yeshua's return. And when we put on our new bodies, this evil inclination, as many will call it, will be cut off forever. We won't even know it anymore. It goes on, these are the counsels of the Spirit of the sons of truth in this world. And as for the visitation of all who walk in this Spirit, it will be healing, great peace, in long life and fruitfulness, together with every everlasting blessing and eternal joy in life without end. Is that not what Yeshua promised us? A crown of glory and a garment of majesty of unending light. We will be clothed in light for eternity. We will be just like Adam was when he was first originally created until they fell. It goes on, but the ways of the spirit of falsehood are these: greed, slackness in the search for righteousness. Now real quick, I want to stop there because there's many people out there that are teaching against the search of knowledge, because they say people are seeking knowledge to be puffed up. But the Bible tells us that God will reject us because we have rejected knowledge and because we have rejected His Word. One of the gifts of the Spirit is knowledge. So don't let anybody deter you from learning about your Creator. That is one of the things He desires most of all, is for you to know Him and to seek that knowledge about Him. Not the knowledge of the world, but His knowledge, His ways, and who He and His Son are. God desires that for you. Seek it with all of your heart and you will find it. It goes on, because those that are slackness in the search for righteousness, wickedness and lies, haughtiness, pride, falseness, deceit, cruelty, abundant evil, ill temper, folly, brazen insolence, abominable deeds, in a spirit of lust and ways of lewdness, in the service of uncleanness, blaspheming tongue, blindness of eye, dullness of ear, stiffness of neck, and heaviness of heart. What is blindness of eye and stiffness of neck? It's not turning from the darkness to the light. It's holding on to the ways of the world. It goes on, so that man walks in all the ways of darkness and guile. And the visitation, when Yeshua returns, of all who walk in this spirit shall be a multitude of plagues. But the hand of all the destroying angels, everlasting damnation by the avenging wrath and the fury of God, eternal torment and endless disgrace, together with shameful extinction in the fire, they will be destroyed. Of the dark regions, the times of all their generations shall be spent in sorrow, mourning, and bitter misery, and in calamities of darkness, until they are destroyed without remnant or survivor. The nature of all the children of men is ruled by these two spirits, the good and the evil. And during their life, all the hosts of men have a portion of their division and walk in both ways. And the whole reward for their deeds shall be for everlasting ages, according to whether each man's portion in their two divisions is great or small. You see, when Yeshua says, if you believe me, keep my commandments, right? I tell people this all the time. When we were children and we watched a scary movie and there was a monster in the closet, when you went home, you closed your closet door. Why? Because you believed what you watched. You believed it, and because you believed it, you feared it. And because you feared it, you closed the door. So when God says for us to fear Him, it's not to fear Him wrathfully, but if we believe Him, then we will fear Him. And when we fear Him, we will do what He says. And that is what the belief is all about. When Yeshua already gave us all of the commandments from Genesis all the way to the Bible, they were the tutor for us to start. They were the foundation for us to grow into the Spirit. But that doesn't mean that we do away with them. We still use them, but we don't walk by the letter of it, meaning we don't use it as just a rule book and skirt around it. We learn what the love behind it is and apply that to other situations in our life. And it talks about that the whole reward for their deeds shall be everlasting ages, according to whether each man's portion in their two divisions is great or small. So this isn't, we know that there are levels of rewards. In Matthew 5, Yeshua says, those that teach and do the Torah will be called great in the kingdom. Those that don't teach it and don't do it will be called least in the kingdom. But yes, they are in the kingdom. But who does Yeshua throw out? It says, those that didn't feed, clothe, and give drink to those in need. Those that took their talent and buried it in the sand and did nothing with it. Whatever God's gift is for you, use it. And search Him. Try to learn more about Him. There is a reward for that, and a crown. It goes on. We're almost done with this community rule. If you can see up in the top right, we're counting down the slides. It says, for God has established the spirits in equal measure until the final age, right? When injustice and the spirit, the evil, will be cut off forever. It says, and has set everlasting hatred between their division. Truth abhors the works of injustice, and injustice hates all the ways of truth. And their struggle is fierce in all their arguments, for they do not walk together, but in the mysteries of His understanding and in His glorious wisdom. God has ordained an end for injustice, or an end for the evil spirit, an end for Hasatan. And at that time of the visitation, He will destroy it forever. You see, when Yeshua comes, Hasatan will be cast down for 1,000 years. He will be loosed at the end of the 1,000 years, and he will deceive the nations, Gog and Magog, and they will go to make war. But that's it. After that, he's destroyed forever. Then truth, which has wallowed in the ways of wickedness during the dominion of injustice, until the appointed time of judgment, shall arise in the world forever. God will then purify every deed of man with His truth. He will refine for Himself the human frame by rooting out all spirit of injustice from the bonds of His flesh. So our new body will be just like Adam and Eve were. It will not know evil. We will only know good. He will cleanse him of all his wicked deeds with the spirit of holiness, right? The good spirit. Like purifying waters, He will shed upon him the spirit of truth. We know from the Bible that the spirit of truth is the Ruach HaKodesh, to cleanse him of all his abomination and injustice, right? And that's what the Ruach HaKodesh is doing to us now. He is cleaning us. Like Yeshua told to His disciples that they are already clean. They only need to have their feet washed while they walk in this world. Right? We've been cleansed by His Ruach HaKodesh and by His blood. But we just need to wash our feet every now and then. And it says to cleanse him of all the abominations and injustice. We have been forgiven. And he shall be plunged into the spirit of purification, that he may instruct the upright in knowledge and the Most High, and teach the wisdom of the sons of heaven to the perfect of way. Right? The perfect of way. That is what John the Baptist and those believers, which I believe were at Qumran, came to do, was to prepare the way. What way is that? The good way. The way of perfect justice and righteousness. It says, for God has chosen them for an everlasting covenant. This is the new covenant. And all the glory of Adam shall be theirs. We will have dominion over the earth again. We will be in a body that only knows good. There will be no more evil. There shall be no more lies, and all the works of injustice shall be put to shame. Until now the spirits of truth and injustice struggle in the hearts of men. They walk in both wisdom and folly. According to his portion of truth, so does a man hate injustice. And according to his inheritance in the realm of injustice, so is he wicked, and so hates truth. For God has established the two spirits in equal measure, until the determined end, and until the renewal or the resurrection, and He knows the reward of their deeds from all eternity. So He already knows who will choose light and resist the darkness, or who will choose darkness and resist the light. He has allotted them to the children of men, that they may know good and evil, and that the destiny of all the living may be according to the Spirit within them at the time of the visitation. They shall separate from the congregation of the men of injustice, the old doctrine, and shall unite with the new doctrine, with respect to the law and the possessions, under the authority of the sons of Zadok, the priests who keep the covenant, and the multitude of the men of the community who hold fast to the covenant. Every decision considering doctrine, property, and injustice shall be determined by them. Is that what not Yeshua told Peter What you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and what you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. They shall practice truth and humility and common, and justice and uprightness and charity and modesty in all their ways. Sorry. No man shall walk in the stubbornness of his heart, so that he strays after his heart and eyes and evil inclination, but he shall circumcise in the community the foreskin of the evil inclination. You see, this is the picture of circumcision on the 8th day. The 8th day is when all of that useless flesh will be cut off for eternity. On the 8th day, when death and Hasatan are finally done away with, there will be no more evil anymore, and it will be circumcised from us forever. And it goes on, and of the stiffness of neck, right? So the community will circumcise the foreskin of the evil inclination and of the stiffness of neck. That's why we are supposed to turn from darkness to light now, is because we are showing God that we want to walk in His way. His will for us was only to be originally good. But when we chose good and evil, now we have to see what the world produces knowing this. And if we love this world, we're telling God that we love the way that Adam and Eve chose rather than the way that God chose for us. But we shouldn't. We should hate evil and turn to God. And they may lay a foundation of truth for Israel, for the community, for an everlasting covenant. Alright, so real quick, we'll end here with Jubilees. And again, Jubilees is one of the books found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was one of the most found books, actually. I think they found 14 scrolls of it. But just real quick, 3 slides from this. It says, then they will say, the days of our forefathers were even unto 1,000 years, and were good. But behold, the days of our life, if a man live many, are 60 years and 10, so 70 years. And if he is strong, 80 years, and those evil. And I know many people don't. There's teachings out there that people didn't really live to be 1,000 years, but they did. And if you've seen my Millennial Day 2 of creation teaching and the megalithic millennium, it goes into how they were able to live 1,000 years, and the earth will be restored again during the millennium to people being 1,000 years old. But it goes on, it says, and they will strive one with another, the young with the old, and the old with the young, and the poor with the rich, and the lowly with the great, the beggar with the prince, on account of the Torah. Is that not what we do today? We fight over the Torah. And it says, and the covenant, for they have forgotten the commandment. That's another thing we strive about, the covenant. Is it a new covenant or a renewed covenant? We're supposed to return back to the old covenant. No, we're not. The old covenant is old, the new covenant is new. It's built on better promises. It's a new and different covenant. It's called the second covenant. It's not a renewed covenant. And the covenant and the feasts and the months and the Sabbaths and the Jubilees and all judgments. And that's what we do. We argue about these things today. But it goes on, it says, in those days, right? In 2009, many people from around the world started coming back to the Torah and going, wait a minute, we're supposed to be keeping this. It wasn't from one community, one church, one congregation. It was all over the world. And they started coming back to the Torah. And Jubilees prophesied this. Jubilees was before Yeshua ever even came. It says, in those days the children will begin to study the Torah and to seek the commandments and return to the path of righteousness. And then what happens after that? It says, and the days will begin to grow many and increase amongst those children of men till their days draw near to 1,000 years. You see, during the millennial reign, if you've watched my Millennial Day 2 of creation, I believe the earth will tilt, it'll change the atmosphere, and this world will then be a place that people will be able to live 1,000 years again. So those that are not in a resurrected body will be able to live 1,000 years, but those in resurrected bodies in a glorious body will live eternally. And it says, into a great number of years before was the number of their days. So with that, I just want to finish with this. It says, and he said unto them, you are of beneath, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. Yeshua came from eternity. He put on the mortal garment and died for us. and he was resurrected into the eternal garment, the eternal body, to show us that the resurrection will happen. And then he ascended back to the Father, where his throne is in heaven. He is from above. Yeshua goes on to say, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. Yeshua's kingdom is a heavenly kingdom. It's an eternal kingdom. Alright, so leave off, right? We talked about the first 2 days, which was the first age. It was the creation, the age of chaos and the flood. And then we're going to get into day 4 next. But this is talking about physical Israel. The letter, they had the works, but they didn't receive the Ruach HaKodesh because they received it without faith. There's scriptures that tell us that. And the third age is the age of the Gentiles, or the age of grace. And right now, Hasatan is the god of this world until he is cast down at the end of this, and Yeshua returns. But before that, it says in Hosea that I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face in their affliction. They will seek me early. Come and let us return unto Yahweh, for he hath torn us, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days he will revive us. In the 3rd day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Right? We say I do the blessing all the time, and many people don't realize that is about the resurrection. When it says Yahweh bless you and keep you, instead of casting you off. He would make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you when we get to stand in his sight and see his face. He would turn his face towards you and give you peace, right? Even before it says you cannot see my face and live. In Psalms it says, and Yahweh said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemy your footstool. So until Hasatan is cast down to the earth, because the earth is the footstool of God, whom the heaven must receive until the time of restitution of all things, including the earth, so that it will be able to support people to live 1,000 years, which God hath spoken by the mouth of his prophets since the world began. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people. Yeshua came down from Mount Zion and sanctified the people and washed their clothes. We've been washed, we only need to wash our feet. And said unto them, be ready against the 3rd day, and come not at your wives. Yeshua will return on the 3rd day, and he has not been with his wife for the last 2 days. And then the Messianic kingdom, for 1,000 years, Hasatan will be bound. Believers will have eternal bodies. The nations that survive the Great Tribulation will be able to live to 1,000 years old. And then at the end of the millennium, Hasatan will be released to go and deceive the nations, Gog and Magog, to go to war. But fire comes down from heaven, devours them, and Hasatan's bound forever. Death is done away with. And then we enter day 8, which is the eternal day. It says we will have eternal life. There's a new heaven and a new earth. There's no more darkness, no more night, no more evil, no pain, no tears, no sorrow, no war, no death, no sin, no knowledge of good and evil, no seed, no Satan. It will be good and perfect for eternity. So we'll leave it at this. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. In Yeshua's name, amen. Till next time.